And we are live, Senators.
Thank you, Alex. Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Vermont State Senate Committee on Institutions. I'm Joe Benning, the chair of the committee. Today is February 10th, 2022. The committee consists of myself, Senator Mazza from Colchester, Grand Isle, Senator Parent from Franklin County, Senator Ingalls from Essex Orleans, and Senator McCormick from Windsor County. We're here this afternoon to talk about a couple of different issues, but before I begin, just for witnesses who have never been with us before, what we try to do is remember that we have an audience on YouTube, some of whom may never have been involved in either the committee process or government process before. And I try to be cognizant of folks who may not understand the language that we are all talking. So if you should be going along and I all of a sudden interrupt you, it's not to try to be rude, it's just to let you know I want to take a break for a moment and talk about what X, Y, or Z happens to mean so the public out there listening will all be on the same page with us. Before you begin, I'd ask you to give a little brief rendition of your own biography and tell us how you fit into the government process. And we're going to begin the topic of conversation under Section 13, Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets. When I talk about Section 13, that's a portion of the Capitol bill, which is the vehicle that this committee is involved with in trying to pass. I have up first Diane Botfield, the Director of Administrative Services and Dairy Policy for the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets. Diane, welcome back to Senate Institutions. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. It is a pleasure to be back before your committee. We are continuing to navigate the COVID aspects and remote. So thank you for your patience as we get everybody logged in today. So thank you much for that. Yes, the agency has a couple of pockets of money in the Capitol bill. The first that we'll talk about is the Big E building. The Big E building is located in Massachusetts. The state of Vermont owns this building, so this is a bit unique. And it is on what is called the Avenue of States in Springfield, Massachusetts. And it is for the Eastern States exhibition nicknamed the Big E. So it's a regional fair, state fair for many of the states. All the New England states have a building there. So Vermont has a building on the Avenue of States, and the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets operates that building. So the first bit of money within our capital request is for upgrades and maintenance to this building. And my colleague Abby Willard is the Director of Agricultural Development, which has the requirement within the agency to manage that building and to work with our colleagues at the Department of Buildings and General Services, who have the skills to do the construction or the maintenance of that building, to plan and implement upgrades to that building. So, Mr. Chairman, if with your permission, I would hand it over to Abby to provide the greater details of what those requests for funding are for the Big E building in Massachusetts.
I'd be happy to do that. And Abby, before you begin, would you like anything pulled up on the screen that the public at large may want to share with us? I don't know whether you personally have anything or you would like us to pull up Section 13 from the spreadsheet.
Hi, thank you, Senator Benning. Abby Willard, Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets. I didn't have anything additional to share with the committee today as far as a handout or a presentation, more just an update on the Sections 13 items that relate to the modernization design, which is the $330,000, which is what I believed the committee was interested in discussing. We talked about the Big E building earlier in the session.
Yeah, I would like, Alex, if you would pull up Section 13, please, so that our viewing audience may be given the opportunity to see what we're talking about by way of a spreadsheet and the numbers that we're talking about today. I interrupted you, Abby. Feel free to give us a total background about your life's history. We'll all be very much on the edge of our seats.
Oh, I'm so honored. So let's see. I am the director of the Ag Development Division at the agency. I've been here since 2011. Prior to that, I worked for another previous decade managing conservation nonprofits in the state of Vermont, and I ran a diversified farm in Randolph Center, where I raised grass-fed beef and lamb and poultry and pigs. So been working in agriculture for a very long time, grew up in the Northeast Kingdom, and happy
And
to...
what part of the Northeast Kingdom? Two of us will want to know that.
That's right. I grew up in the town of Peacham.
Very good. Are you still farming?
I'm not still farming. Yeah, no more kind of, it was very challenging to figure out how to work full-time and farm full-time. So it's part of the ongoing appreciation I have for our agricultural community of how they make time to hay on the 4th of July and care for animals during the heat and the cold, as well as have an additional income at times, which is the case for so many.
Okay. So we've got section 13 up on the screen.
Great.
And we walk through what that expense is being requested for.
Okay, let me just make sure that I can pull it up in a way that I can see it. Hang on 1 second. Okay, so let's see. So section 13 has the $1,070,000, which is the capital bonding, as I understand, that would be for the appropriation for the ongoing maintenance and improvements to the building. And then further to the right, it's just off the screen there, Alex, is the $330,000, which would be for what we're referring to as this next generation renovation and modernization concept design. And so I think those are the two figures which are under discussion for this session. So it's the 1.66 million total. Am I reading this correctly? Not seeing the upper column titles. Okay, yeah, thank you so much.
So the
Yeah.
300,000, is that for design?
Yeah, so the 330,000, so this is, I think, an important piece to discuss with the committee. So there's two various planning and design processes that Building and General Services is supporting around the Vermont building at the Big E. The first piece of that is what's called a master plan, and that master plan is actually being supported out of FY22 funds, as well as a contribution from the Agency of Agriculture that comes from the commissions that we receive from the vendors at the Big E to conduct this master plan. And this master plan is sort of getting ready to go out into an RFP, a request for proposals now, to bring on a qualified architectural firm that will provide some vision for the modernization and adjustments to the Vermont building. So that process is designed to occur. So let me just scroll down to my notes around the timeline. So that master planning would be designed to begin starting this May and be completed by October of 2022. That master plan would then inform this renovation project design and planning, which would involve, potentially the same, also likely an additional architectural and engineering design firm that would take that master plan and design it into further detail about how that vision outlined in the master plan would actually come to life in the building. And the objective overall is, how do we make the building feel more conducive in a layout for commerce and for vendors to engage with fairgoers? How do we improve the flow through the building? How do we look at the lighting and the sound in the building so that we're showcasing as best we can the products and producers that have their product and samples available at the Big E. And again, sort of creating some flexibility within the booth structure so that when we have transition of vendors to either they kind of grow out of the Big E or for other reasons are no longer returning to the Big E and are replaced with an additional vendor, that we can still flexibly and modularly accommodate new vendors. And the ultimate goal is to really have the space feel like Vermont and capture the rural character and the agricultural essence of our state. And so that larger renovation and modernization kind of design would happen beginning likely in February of 2023. And we'd have, significant recommendations for how the design rebuild or, modernization renovations would be completed by September of 2023. So since there would be construction in the building, we just are wanting to share and, put into our timeline that construction would then begin on the inside of the building in September of 24 through August of 25. And then since the Big E happens for those 17 days in September and into early October, we would then take a break for when the fair occurs and then pick it up again later in 2025 and continue through the summer of 2026 with a focus on the exterior renovations. So this is all part of a longer plan, master plan of designing what's needed in the building, then doing the more detailed design of how we actually make that happen, and then planning for multiple seasons of interior and exterior renovation to the building.
So there's an ongoing joke in our committee about the fact that each one of us, when we come back in our next lifetime, we all want to be architectural design engineers. This money is needed for an architectural firm to come in and basically tell you how to make this more Vermonty. Is that the way it works?
My understanding is that the plan will actually, the Vermonty plan will actually happen as part of the master plan. And then this renovation and modernization design will actually be the nuts and bolts of how we make that image take hold in the building.
I am being facetious.
What walls do we have to remove? Oh, excuse me.
Right. Well, I am being facetious, but I know that there's at least 5, if not 6, if we throw in our committee assistant, who'd be happy to come down and share that money and tell you all about how to get from where you are to where you want to be. But no, I appreciate that comment.
Well,
Senator Mazza.
You are being facetious, but we'd love to have the committee come down and spend some time at the Vermont building. So please do make time for that.
We're talking $330,000. That's just for, I don't know what. And then we talk maybe another $1 million. What would you anticipate the project costing? $10 million?
I think the estimate range, Senator Mazza, that is anticipated for the building to be complete would be somewhere between $3 and $5 million in the actual renovation, repairs, and upgrades to the building.
But you're going to have over $1 million just in the design and planning for a $3 million project. Is that correct?
No. So the design would be $330,000.
Yeah. Okay. And what's the next phase cost?
So that $330,000 would be the completion of the design phase, and then the implementation phase would occur following that, which would be likely around $1 million per year over 3 to 5 years.
And that would be the construction phase, the $1 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's $330,000 for the complete project, the design, engineer, and planning.
Sorry, Senator, ask that question one more time.
$330,000. There is no more money after that to spend on design, planning, or engineering or anything. That's the total amount.
That's my general understanding. I think that when BGS does their, and this is a good question for additional clarification of our BGS partners, but my understanding is that BGS does build into their $1 million estimate of per year on construction does include some design time. So, they kind of go from like, how do we going to redesign the building? How do we actually move walls, tear up floors, maintain support in the building? Is that $330,000 modernization concept design? And then when they're actually tearing up the floor and replacing concrete or adding additional windows, they run into other places where they need some additional design work that happens in the moment of the construction.
But nothing's gonna happen to the outside of the building, because that's historical, right? It's gonna stay the same.
So there will be renovations to the outside of the building, and some of that major maintenance is happening this, kind of is visioned for FY23, which is like replacing the windows and preventing the kind of the siding from falling off or the slate
No,
roof.
but that's maintenance. That's maintenance.
Yep,
That's not, we don't need an engineer to tell us that.
I think they do need some design assistance to sort of make sure they're doing what needs to be done for the building. But again, the overarching vision for the building is to keep the historical integrity of the building. So we'll keep the dome, we'll maintain the cupola, we'll repair the clock. So for example, the clock on the building doesn't work currently. So those are some of those exterior features that would be maintained as part of that historical integrity. But the rotting sills and the parts of the building that are lacking for maintenance and attention will be included in some of that exterior renovation.
Because we repair all the fairgrounds in this whole state of Vermont for less than that per year. So okay, I'm confused, but that's all right. Thank you. Go
Well,
ahead.
Senator, I think you bring up a great point about the cost for renovation to this building. And I think, again, the conversation that we've had with BGS has been that so much of the major maintenance has been neglected for so long that we've reached a point with the building that it's actually becoming unsafe to be in the building or outside of the building without some of that maintenance improvement being done. And so we're utilizing the opportunity to do the major maintenance as well as use it to make improvements in the building so that we can look at efficient hot water systems, or could we do some sort of digital counter to know how many people are coming in and out of the building, as well as a security measure? Could we use some digital technology to be able to showcase photography and artists and producers and products from across the state of Vermont that aren't able to be in the building physically, but part of kind of a technological way of showcasing Vermont's ag community and the products that we produce in our state? So I think that's all part of some of the interior concepts that are being considered as part of that renovation design.
Thank you, Abby.
You're welcome.
Other questions, committee? Dick McCormick, I can't see you on the screen. I've only got 4 of us, but if you have a question, holler out.
Well, I guess it's more generic than specific to this testimony, which is, I noticed that Senator Mazza has again raised the issue of how much we're putting into planning and design. And I'm wondering if we can go beyond just grieving how much we're spending and speculating that maybe it's too much. I'd like to really take a look at that. Obviously that's not going to be today, but I would like to take a look, because I'm inclined to think that I don't understand why it's so much. Let me put it that way. We could just hire my son and he'd figure out a way to do it.
Well, I didn't know whether Corey had any construction skills, but it seems to me with a retailer, a real estate agent, Corey, if you got any construction skills, and Dick can bring his guitar and keep us in a Vermonty mood, we all might have another job possibility at the end of this legislative session.
I own 4 apartment buildings, and by necessity, I've gotten better at being able to fix things. So.
Understandable. Okay, Abby, we interrupted you. Sorry about that. We try to use a little levity from time to time in this conversation, but as you can probably tell, we're all scratching our heads wondering how it is we managed to spend so much on planning and design.
Yeah.
And your BGS partners have somehow mysteriously disappeared from our daily schedule here today. So we'll get back with them. Did you have anything else you wanted to tell us about this particular section?
I'm not sure that I do have any additional explanation around the design, other than to say that to us as the agency, the commitment to both the maintenance and the renovation of this building feels like an investment in a public marketplace for our Vermont agricultural producers outside of our state boundaries. And that's a really
Did I lose you?
Abby has an
Yeah,
intermittent
products.
loss. Oh, yeah, we lost you for a minute, Abby.
I'm so sorry. My unstable internet does that at times.
Mr. Chair, one more
Apologies.
question.
Yes, Senator
Yeah,
Mazza.
On the $1 million that you're getting now for major maintenance, the $1 million, did that have to be designed also and engineered and or was that things that you focused on yourself that you could be done?
It's a good question, Senator Mazza. The $1 million that's planned for major maintenance in FY23 will be primarily focused on a few projects, mostly on replacing the roof of the building, completing the hot water system renovation in the building, and some kind of critical exterior building improvements. So where we have windows that have rotted or sills that are so damaged that there's actually a fear of falling glass from outside of the building.
But who come up with that list? Did you come up with that list or did we hire someone to come up with that list?
We've done both. So there's an audit has been done of the building to identify the major maintenance improvement needs. And then we've been kind of picking away at those given the budget that's available over the past few years. And these remain the kind of the critical highest order items for focus in FY23.
And the audit was completed by BGS?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
But there was an external partner that I'm not remembering at the moment that was a part of that building audit. But I think that BGS would also say that there's some degree of design that happens when they're looking at making an improvement to, a significant part of the building, like the roof. So looking to make sure that they've got proper support and structure to be able to handle the weight of new slate and the like. But I feel like they would be better positioned to speak to those specific details.
Other questions, committee? Abby, I know that I have on my schedule Amy Mercier. I don't know whether Amy is here or whether she wanted to say something. Or
I
if she was
did
just
see
along
that-
for support.
Yeah, that Amy was here from our business office. Amy, you want to at least just introduce yourself and
Hi,
add?
I'm Amy Mercer. Sorry I'm late. I had some
Can we,
technical difficulties.
Can we pull the screen share down for the moment, Alex? We may need to bring it back up again shortly, but. Hi, Amy.
Hi.
Welcome to Senate Institutions.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can, and I don't
Perfect.
know if you've been here before, but we tried to first ask everybody to introduce themselves, give us a 30-second rundown of who they are, where they come from, and how they fit into this government process.
I'm Amy Mercer. I'm the financial director for the Agency of Agriculture. Formerly, I came from VTrans as a business manager for the Maintenance Bureau. And I'm here to help support our agency and our budget process.
Well, welcome to Senate Institutions. I don't know what you've been able to hear thus far, but do you have anything to add to what Diane and Abby have presented us so far?
I don't think so, but thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. With respect to all of you ladies, forgive us for having such bad attempt at humor during the afternoon, but we really actually do appreciate the Big E. And it is a wonderful opportunity for Vermont to have an out-of-state presence and make an impression on people from literally around the world. So keep up the good work as far as that's concerned, and we will support you eventually. We're going to keep on giving everybody we can a little bit of beef about planning and design money going out the door. With that, I'll say thank you very much for joining us. I am sure we will see you again.
Actually, you will see some of us right away at 2 o'clock.
Right away, yes. I was going to say, if Alex can now bring back, we're now shifting to section 10 to talk about clean water. And Diane, do you want to take the lead on this conversation as well?
I will. Thank you, Senator Benning. Diane Bothfeld, Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets. I am a Director of Administrative Services with responsibility for the Water Quality Division. With me, besides Amy Mercier, is Laura DePietro, the Director of the Water Quality Division, and Jeff Cook, our Grants Program Manager for the division as well. So we have a lot of knowledge here today. I think the one thing to call your attention to it is line 86, that the agency has taken part in the potential swapping of capital funds into ARPA funds. Our work in clean water, the Best Management Practices Grants, BMP, and the Capital Equipment Assistance Program. We do acronyms all the time, so it takes a minute of thought to get the right words out, are deemed eligible to use ARPA funding. The 200,000 that is shown in orange on line 86 for FY23, that is to remain in plain old capital funding, bonded capital funding. That would support the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program, which is a program that assists farmers to take land out of production to protect waterways and gullies and those types of things. There's a very specific agreement which this money is matched by federal money. It is very clear that you cannot utilize federal money to match the federal money in the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program. So that 200,000 would remain in regular old state capital dollars for that program, but the remainder of the request can go to ARPA funding. But to give you greater detail on what the best management practices are, the Capital Equipment Assistance Program, and further details on the CREP, the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program, I would respectively request to turn that over to Laura DePietro to give you greater detail.
I'd be happy to have that handing of the baton, if you will, Diane, but before you leave, just so that our viewing audience is familiar with what we are looking at here, we have a spreadsheet that is broken down not only in columns, but also in colors. And the specific line item number 86 you were talking about earlier, although I really have to stick my head close to the screen to see exactly where that was. It does have an orange designation of 200,000 attached to it, and you described it as ARPA funding. Can you bring that down a level? I mean, I know what ARPA funding is, and I know my committee does, but I don't know that the YouTube viewing audience is familiar with the conversation we're now having about where these pockets of money are coming from. Do you have an easy way of explaining that?
I can. ARPA, ARPA stands for American Rescue Plan Assistance dollars that the state has received. We received lots of zeros behind that money from the state. And there's a lot of planned use of those funds, one of which was for clean water. and the agency is the agency is able to access those dollars that were set aside from the American Rescue Plan Assistance Program for clean water to do agricultural projects. So the orange shading on the 200,000, that indicates that remains in capital funding. The 200,000 would not be ARPA funding. The remainder of the remainder of funds would be switched off. And we had an initial request of 3.4 million, I believe. Looking up in my notes here, I had that the other day. Laura DePietro, can you? Okay, pardon me. We had a full request for clean water work from the capital bill of 2.6 million, 2,651,781 in grand total. There were 200,000 remains as capital bill funds. The other 2.4 million gets swapped over to ARPA funding. Is that helpful, Senator?
That explains it. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Laura DePietro, welcome to Senate Institutions. I don't know, I can't even see you at the moment because I've only got 4 folks on my screen. But
well, I'm here. Hello.
I'm not sure how long you've been listening to our conversation. Were you on when Diane originally introduced herself?
I was for this aspect, the section 10. I just caught the end of Abby Willard and her.
Okay, well, Laura, basically, before you begin, we just ask you to give us a 30-second rundown of who you are, where you come from, and how you fit into the government process.
Sure. I'm Laura DePietro. I'm the Director of Water Quality at the Agency of Agriculture. So in water quality, we regulate farms, and then we also provide them assistance with capital construction projects and other non-capital construction projects to implement practices that would then get them into compliance or exceed compliance. And so that is the role that I have here, is that this budget helps support those programs that we move out to farmers. And I think Diane's done a really good job of explaining the money aspects of it. And I'll just really simply give you a rundown of sort of these 3 particular programs and what they do. So the biggest one is, we call it BMP, because as Diane said, we love our acronyms, but it's best management practice. And it's the biggest program in terms of, it is the one that helps farmers. When you think about a farm and the fixes they need on the farm, it is typically the one that's the brick and mortar construction. So that's why it's the largest one. Those tend to be the more costly projects. And a lot of it is all about collecting clean water and getting it out of there, and then otherwise collecting dirty water, holding onto it, and then having the farm apply it on the landscape using a nutrient management plan so that it's applied at good rates that make sense for the environment. So that's our biggest program. The other 2, one is Capital Equipment Assistance Program. It's been growing. It's roughly about $1 million a year we spend on it, but it helps purchase equipment that is above and beyond the necessary needs for farming. So as an example, a manure spreader is something that every farmer, should operate and manage on their own. But if you were to put attachments on the back of it to inject the manure into the ground, that's an additional attachment that's above and beyond for water quality. So we will purchase at a cost sharing setup, helping them buy that type of equipment that will add on to their existing equipment. So that's where we try and promote additional water quality practices through equipment. And then the last program is the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program, which is the buffer program for simplicity. So along rivers and streams, helping plant trees and grasses. And that one is matched 4-to-1 with federal money. So it's a nice program in that space. And that's the one that the $200,000 is set aside because it's matched with other funding. With the federal government, we can't use ARPA. So that's why that one program is not able to do that.
See. Committee, any questions? I can't see Senator McCormick. Alex, can we take the screen down again, temporarily at least? I don't know whether
I'm okay,
Senator.
Mr. Chairman. I don't
You
have
are.
any question.
Okay. I also see now Jeff Cook is with us. Jeff, did you have anything you wanted to add to this conversation?
Thank you, Senator. No, I'm Jeff Cook. I'm an Administrative Services Manager here in the Water Quality Division. I work for Laura and Diane, and I'm the one that is administering most of these grants and contracts. So I'm here for support if needed from my bosses.
Well, maybe you could educate us, and especially those who are viewing on YouTube, what happens when somebody comes to you to apply for a grant?
Well, depending on the program, there are different ways that they happen, but essentially our staff will work with that applicant to see what their needs are, determine if it's a viable project for a water quality benefit to the state. And if it is, they have applications that they've had to have filled out with us. I work on the paperwork side of this, but our staff will meet, inspect the sites. If there's engineering and design work needed, they will work with that with our engineering crew and work with contractors and get the projects built, provide us their invoices and costs, and we work on trying to get them paid as quickly as we can after the projects are installed.
So are you the one who literally cuts the check, so to speak?
I'm the one that requests the check.
I see. And are you also the one for local programming purposes who sends out a message to all the politicians who are local to that project and instruct them that this is a great photo op for you on this particular day?
That has not been part of my duties to date.
Okay. Committee, any questions for Jeff? Once again, I'd like to thank you all for coming out to Senate Institutions today. I will leave with you that we know the Capitol bill is still in the possession of our House counterparts. As it works its way through that committee, there may be some adjustments, and especially in those instances where you feel the adjustments are unfair and unfounded, feel free to reach back out and maybe we can help you fix something on our side of the building when we get the bill. Having said all that, committee, I have 213. Thanks again, guys, for coming.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Senator.
I have 213, committee. Our next presentation is scheduled for 2:30, and I don't know, Alex, whether we have anybody on the line yet that is appearing for that conversation.
Not quite yet, but I think that they may be available, so I'm reaching out right now.
Okay.
Money, money, money.
It's amazing, isn't it?
This is getting ridiculous. It really is. I was just thinking about that at 330,000. If you hired three people at $100,000, $110,000 a piece, would they spend a whole year on this?
Well, only until the next capital budget comes up, because then they'll be back for more.
God, what can you do? How much paperwork can you do to spend a year?
Especially with the software that they have nowadays and all of that. I think it's getting to the point to where we're gonna have to look at that. We really, really are. We should go down through every project that we have and see what we're gonna spend in engineering just on this one capital bill. And really kind of talk about whether it is time to put in-house people in, because we're talking about millions of dollars, millions.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's not even that. Like, think about what Senator Clarkson said yesterday, and I know we heard in testimony, $300,000 per unit for affordable housing is ridiculous. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, in all honesty, I'm not a developer, but I'm friends with enough of them in real. You're buying apartments in Franklin County for $100,000 a unit, and I know
Right.
those are older ones, but you can build them cheap, about that price. So, like, whoever's spending 300,000, somebody's getting rich. Like, I don't care, and I know we're on YouTube, and I'll be honest there.
Oh,
They're taking us to the woodshed, and it's ridiculous. And I mean, I know, we're legislators and don't have the expertise on building, but it's like, you're overpaying. I just think all those places, VHB, all of them are overspending, and if they are, they're spending this on engineering that.
all you'd have to do is watch this program today and see they're spending 330. So if I was going to bid on this, why would I go any less than 330?
Well, it's the VTrans grant. So I worked for the town last year. We put out a grant. VTrans gave us most of the money, every engineering firm knows the study allows for up to 60,000 from V-Trans. So
You
they're
go.
all between 58,000 and 59.9, and they're all just under.
Oh, Lord help me.
And
Yeah.
then V-Trans tells us we can't use the lowest bidder as a reason why we chose someone. It has to be based on qualifications. So you're like, all right, like, but
Oh.
that's just, you know, they know, they played the game.
And I get it. I mean, you're in the position, you need the money. At the end of the day, it isn't your money. You know you're gonna get it. So what's the battle to you? You know, really? I
Yeah.
mean, why are you gonna battle about it? Because you're not.
Right. Yeah, because it's not even like if I don't spend the money, it's not like V-Trans gives me the savings for the town to actually construct the project.
Right. Right.
You
So
know,
why would you even try to do any different?
yeah, no, but that 300,000 a unit for affordable housing is beyond ridiculous. I mean, that's $30 million for 100 units. Are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Right.
You just built a 13. I mean, it's sign a private let private developers get paid 300,000 a unit they develop by the state. I mean, tell us to come in at a bid. If you were going to pay for a unit we could develop or a private developer could develop, you'd get it cheaper. It's
I
because
just
we go
sold
through the-
31. I just sold 31 units for under 900,000. 31 units.
Senator McCormick,
Corey.
jump right on in.
Corey, when I once said that you're an old boy in training, I gotta say you're doing very well. This conversation kind of sounds like what you hear down to the bar at maybe 11 or 12 at night.
And they're right.
But I think you're right. And I think what we've got to do is actually get down to real figures, real facts and figures.
It's
And
getting-
figure out what's actually going on because my gut tells me exactly what you're saying.
You could hire any contractor or any contractor, your son, to go in that building and show them exactly what they want to do, and they would do it. I mean, they could do it. Why do you need an engineer to
As-
design?
As
wall?
part of the
Yeah, as part-
bid is what they're gonna give you.
That's right. That's part of the bid. Yeah.
Right.
I was half joking yesterday, but not really joking, when Alexander Twilight put that building up. in
Yeah,
2
right.
years.
Yeah, you hit it. 2 years.
It just boggles my mind how much red tape we've wrapped ourselves up in.
God.
When you get to the argument about whether these folks should be in-house, of course, then the Republicans will be eviscerating us for putting on more state employees.
You did that
But
this
when you
morning with the
compare
other
it to
building.
this, yeah, when you compare it to these numbers, I can't see the
Well,
wisdom.
they wouldn't if it made sense. They wouldn't if it made sense. If,
Yeah.
you know,
But who gets down into these weeds other than us?
we should. We should.
Oh, I
We should.
agree, we should, yeah.
Especially now. I mean, it's actually gone beyond the committee joke. It actually is the joke, you know?
Well, I've been pounding on this thing for years and it's unbelievable. It's just crazy. When I see these figures, oh my God. Oh. Anyway. That's
Alex, how we doing for witnesses?
I have not heard back from them regarding being able to come in early, so we may just be looking at 2:30 for them.
All right, let's take a 10-minute break. Be back on at 2:30.